Have you ever dreamt of having a podcast made about your family, about someone you love, or an amazing figure whose story must be preserved for future generations? Now you can do just that with Family Sounds. Our team of podcasting producers use personal and oral history to create high-quality audio documentaries about families and real-life heroes. We will transform your history into a meaningful story that can be shared and enjoyed for years to come. To learn more about Family Sounds and to receive your special discount, visit en.familysounds.net/podcast and enter promo code SAVVY. That is en.familysounds.net/podcast and enter SAVVY. Our guest today is COO Robert Burkhart of AdFresco.com. AdFresco is the leading marketplace to discover and access premium advertising and sponsorship inventory. The platform was created for local businesses, brands, agencies to connect, collaborate, and build new business relationships. Find out how AdFresco can meet your advertising needs today at AdFresco.com. Hi, Robert. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Christina. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. I found out about your wonderful company, AdFresco Media Group, and I found out about by accident. Someone actually sent me an email, said you need to join these people, and it's actually a wonderful group for media people out there, for marketing companies trying to advertise, but you're doing it in a different way because there are tools out there to help people advertise, get campaigns out there, but you're doing it in a way that's even more efficient. I want you to share a little bit with our audience about how you even came to starting AdFresco and what was the reason for even going there? What happened to even create that for you?
Well, I think to set the record straight, AdFresco was initially started by Nance Livingston, who's our CEO. She had started it for about a year before I joined up with her. But Nance is more of a business person than a media person. And so I ended up connecting with her to provide some of the tech and media transaction type information that goes on. And, and join her and become partners with her at that point to try and push AdFresco forward. And the original thinking of the site has remained intact from day one, which is we want to join sellers and buyers, supply side and demand side if you're of the newer digital marketing place. But we want to join those people together using technology, using the long tail of the internet, without necessarily getting in the way of the transaction or in the middle of the transaction. So it was a site put together, really a lead generation, I guess is the best way of phrasing it. But it allows the sellers to go on to market the offers that they have. And what's great about the site, in my opinion at least, what's great about the site is it's unstructured in the sense that you can have a package offering of media, you can have a sponsorship, you can have things that sort of go outside the bounds of normal inventory sales and advertising. So we kind of cater to all channels and all offerings that you can have within or across channels. So we're trying to address the entire marketplace when we put an offer up there.
And this is interesting for everyone listening in. They're business owners. A lot of business owners listening in, but not all of them know about marketing or the marketing field. And it's really, really grown in the past 10 years exponentially with digital marketing. Explain a little bit about the transformation through such things as programmatic and then how you came along to actually even revolutionize it even more. But it's really come a long way. Explain that a little bit for anyone who doesn't understand, know a little bit about the marketing industry.
Yeah, sure. The ad industry has gone through really just a paramount change when digital came into play. From the old analog channels, I guess we would refer to them now, like TV and radio and magazine print, those type channels. Digital came in and offered technology advantages and automation advantages that really had never been seen before. It's not unlike what's gone on with, you know, iTunes and the music industry and Netflix and video and you know, technology application where it has just revolutionized the field. And so digital has really done the same thing to advertising now, except that some of the newer digital offerings, and I'll get into programmatic in a second, but some of the new digital stuff is a little different. It's actually quite different from a psychological, emotional impact on the consumer. And so I think the industry, to some degree, is still trying to figure out those differences and figure out how to work with them. And, you know, there's an old saying in the industry that there's no such thing as a bad channel, only a bad use of a channel. And so I think that still holds true for television as well as, you know, online video and digital and display ads. You know, they can all be used really effectively together, but it's, you know, getting them used properly. And so, you know, the big difference with the digital coming into the marketplace has been that there are technology advantages to knowing my consumer is interested. When they click a button or when they watch a video for a long period of time, you know, there's what we would term as engagement. And, you know, for a long time, marketing channels have been one way, and that we're pushing a message out there. We're not really sure if anyone saw it or who saw it, or count the Nielsen heads and say, you know, 6 million people saw it, but we really don't know if they watched it for a long time, if they engaged with it. And digital is sort of bringing that new feedback loop into play, which is really powerful and really exciting.
Yeah. And you know what, what's coming up for me, Robert, is I recall back, because I'm in accounting, that's my main field in corporate America for many years. And I recall when computers took over the office, this is years and years ago, but we used to do everything by hand. We used to do ledgers by hand. Everything was manual. And I remember it seemed like it worked very well. And then one day they said, well, we're going to get rid of paper and we're going to do it on computer. And I was like, ah! You know, having the ledger on a computer, it just seemed like it was going to be the separation that was not going to allow me to do my job as effectively. Now I just happen to love technology and computers, and I find that, you know, I'm not the paper queen like I used to be. But where has technology kind of helped marketing, and where has it kind of hindered kind of that connection or engagement with the client?
Well, you know, I think it's undoubtedly helped in the efficiency of media companies, both on the sell and buy side, or, you know, the media owners, the media outlets, as well as the ad agencies and the advertisers out there, because the automation that it brings forward just, you know, lets, you know, one person do the job of 5 now. So there's an efficiency play there, absolutely. And it may be more or less than 5. That's not a citable statistic, but it's just an example. But I think the more important piece here is where the engagement might be more troubling with technology is a bit of a cultural issue and a bit of maybe a channel issue, in that we've become a culture that is almost ADD in nature, or ADHD in nature, where, you know, we've got 3 seconds to look at something. And in the spirit of building a bond, an emotional bond with your consumer, if you're an advertiser or a brand, you can't do that in 3 seconds. You know, it was hard enough to do it in a 15 or a 30-second spot on TV. But, you know, trying to build those bonds, they become, if everything is looked at for a period of 3 to 5 seconds, all media becomes frequency media, which is just a term meaning, in the old days, frequency media were things like radio, where you could pay a lot of money to just get a quick announcement out there to remind people, or to, you know, bring up an idea that was already raised and just sort of refresh your memory. You know, it was cheap enough media placement that it didn't break the bank, and You could do it a whole lot of times, whereas the cost of television was outrageously expensive at the time, so that you had to very carefully plot and plan your television exposure. So you use television for what we would call reach, and getting either a message across that was something that had to be educational. It had to inform the consumer about a new brand, why a new brand was good, new car model, something like that, where you couldn't do it in a couple of seconds. But once you inform them, once you build that awareness for it, then you could support it with frequency at media. So what the problem we're having now is, and we're actually seeing large companies like Procter & Gamble out there now saying they're going to bring television back into their mix because they're missing that reach piece. They're missing that long connection, that ability to educate. And one of my favorite questions to ask people is if they can name a brand, a Fortune 50 type brand for consumers that has been created in the last 10 years. It isn't social media. So it's easy to throw out Google and Facebook and, possibly Amazon. And Amazon might actually be a legitimate candidate, although most of their brand recognition has not been built over advertising. It's been built over experience. So the problem is there's no new emotional bonds really being developed solidly with large brands. They're using digital media and things like that. They're carrying forward bonds that have been already built. Large companies, Johnson & Johnson and major companies out there that have a solid reputation and a solid brand, and then, know who they are, and their consumers know who they are. And it just takes quick reminders to say, hey, think about J&J, and, then it comes out. But to try and build that from scratch right now is really daunting without those reach vehicles.
This is interesting for me, Robert, because I'm realizing there are a lot of clients I deal with in the financial industry even now, and I find even, especially with the younger generation, the millennials and such, they're really more in tune with technology, more so than, say, maybe the older folks like myself and older.
Guilty.
Yeah, I personally like picking up the phone and having a chat with someone. But the millennials, like you were saying, people today have 3 to 5 seconds sometimes that, hey, get out of my face. I just want to know what the good stuff is right here really quick in a quick text and move on. So that goes to say, if you're a young budding business owner or entrepreneur, where do you even begin? Because you don't have the funds to start out with these big TV ads. And I have to say, for me, being in Savvy, what I've said to people who've come to us, and we are much cheaper than TV, is that frequency, I find, does help people get their message out in a bigger way than doing, say, one ad or even sometimes one promotional interview. What is your suggestion for people out there who are just getting started, an entrepreneur? How do you even make the headway? Do you have to be super sensational? What do you suggest?
It all depends on the brand itself and who their audience is, and what the best way to reach them is. So it's one of those sort of evasive answers on my part of one size doesn't fit all. But I would look seriously at doing things like YouTube videos for the reach and educational pieces, and then maybe partnering that up with frequency media like radio, like digital display, things like that, where you can get the word out. Obviously, search is hugely important right now, because it generally is used when you're in the funnel already. I know what I'm looking for. Let me just find it and buy it. So that's where search's value is through the roof. But it really depends on what you're selling. Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it high end? Is it affordable? What, who are you marketing to, and where are the best places to reach them? It's interesting because it's forced, the small business owner to become very savvy about marketing. Even though marketing has gotten far less expensive, you can get on the air like in a relatively inexpensive way if you're smart about how you do it. And, you know, still they have to know what they're doing. They have to have the concept of a marketing plan and how they're going to use certain channels, and, you know, are they going to drive people to landing pages with specials? And, you know, there's just a ton of things to think about as a small business owner that are sort of expected by your consumer audience now, because everybody's doing it.
You know what's interesting, Robert? Someone, a marketer, had come to our channel a couple of years ago and said that now more than ever, it's kind of exciting for small businesses in that even though marketing and the whole marketing industry has really changed and it's caused us to kind of think differently, he said what makes it exciting for a new brand spanking new business is it allows you to be super, super creative and get outside that box. He said if you're not known, you're brand spanking new, just go out there and be wild, crazy. Don't even worry. I mean, depending on who your market is, about offending certain people, because some people say, I want to make everyone happy, or, you know, stay really kind of politically correct. And he said, right now, it's a good time when you're really spanking new to do something outrageous, like a mob dance. What do they call that when you get a whole bunch of people together and you start out like a few people and then you get hundreds of people dancing or singing or something like that? I forget what they call it.
Yeah, crowdsourcing or something like that.
Yeah. So that way, you know, they were like, because actually, this is really interesting, Robert. I was at a movie theater about 6 or 7 years ago, and Daphne's did a mob kind of advertising. What they did before the movie started, they had a bunch of people. No, excuse me. Before the movie started, they did this commercial where they did a Daffy's kind of boring, you know, hats and T-shirts and whatever. I was like, oh, okay, I can't wait for this commercial to be over. Let's play the movie. And then right towards the end of the commercial on the screen, people that were in the videos popped out of the screen behind the screen and started dancing in the aisles in front of us for real. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember we're all like clapping and I was like, this is so cool. I still remember that ad six years later. Now I don't remember all other ads I've seen probably in the past 6 years, but I remember that one because it was so out of the box.
It's great. I mean, that's the whole goal of an ad, is to make an impression, and, you know, and it built a bond with you. You remember it, and, you know, whoever was responsible did their job really well. You know, that's what you're going for.
Exactly. Yeah. Now explain to the audience a little bit about what you've created at AdFresco Media Group and how it can help new media people out there, or even people who aren't in the media industry but have a brand or something they want to kind of market. How can they use your service to get out there and get noticed?
Sure. So what we do is we're trying to help both sides here. We're trying to help the people selling media, and we're trying to help the people buying media. Mm-hmm. And the people buying media can be ad agencies, or it can be, you know, mom and pop consumers, you know, in local businesses. And on the sell side, it can be, you know, we've had people who do moving trucks and advertise on the side of the moving truck driving across the country. Mm-hmm. So we've had, you know, media owners of that sort offering their services, as well as, you know, main type companies, television, radio, outdoor type companies on there selling their inventory as well. Mm-hmm. And what it offers is an inexpensive way. Right now we're doing a free trial for the next 12 months mm-hmm. of just allowing people to post their ad inventory mm-hmm. and to get it out there and show the power of the site. But we combine two things. We allow them to post their deal. They can post it without pricing, so that, you know, the thing about advertising sales is that it's very competitive. So, you know, sellers don't want to post their price right out front, but if you contact them, they'll be happy to give you those details. But we allow them to post without that, to talk about the audience they can deliver, and to basically throw up an offer of whether it's sponsorship, whether they're selling media inventory, whatever they're actually doing for their offer. Mm-hmm. And then it's free to the buy side, who can log on, search the offers, find something that works for them depending on what they're trying to do, And we go across all channels. So if they're looking for digital, or if they're looking for television or radio, you can find all of those on the site. And, the really powerful piece is we just make connections. We're lead generation, so we're just finding interested parties and connecting them. So we don't take a big, chunk of the commission or anything like that. We simply charge a monthly subscription, a small monthly subscription, when the free trial ends.
Yes.
And it's per user. And, so it covers the costs of our site and hosting the marketplace, but it doesn't actually, we're not looking to take a piece of the deal for all these deals.
Yeah.
Historically, having been in advertising, I know there's been a lot of pushback for that type model. And, I have to be honest that I don't think that type model is warranted. I think in a lot of cases, it costs a lot more than the tech actually provides. So.
Yeah, I get you. And now, can I ask, what campaign, say you're a mom and pop and you're saying, hey, I have a big truck, we're a moving company, and we'll do your advertising on our trucks. What kind of campaign goes well or sells well on AdFresco? Is there certain things you should look for when you're setting up a campaign that works better than not, or anything you suggest to anyone?
It's very specific to what you're trying to accomplish and who you're, the product that you're marketing. Because I think all of our advertisers on the site have really valuable inventory.
Yes.
And it sort of goes back to what I was saying before, is there's no bad channel, there's just bad use of it. And so, I think depending on what you're doing, and there's, considerations of, am I marketing to a local group within a city or a market? Am I am I advertising nationally? Obviously, if you're doing moving trucks that are traveling across the country, you'd probably want a more national audience and, things of that nature. But, it really depends. We've got, the beauty of the site is we've got answers for everyone. And the other piece that we do, which I should have mentioned, is we socialize the ads. So as things are being sold, you'll see us post them on LinkedIn, on Facebook, trying to get the eyes out there of the buying audience to see that offer, to say, maybe trigger somebody to say, hey, that would be great for the campaign I'm working on. So we're constantly sort of putting social pushes out there for each of the pieces of inventory that we sell.
Yeah, and actually, I noticed you also send out a newsletter with any of the clients or people who post as well. We do.
Yeah. We do a weekly update that just tells what the new listings are.
Now, I've heard something. Tell me maybe it depends as well as on the industry and what you're selling. But I've seen some people say that you should always post your prices. It just turns customers away. And then other times I hear that you should have a range. Does it depend on what you're selling? If it's advertising, is it best really not to price it out?
It's hard to say. You're right. It's a tough question. It's one of the tougher ones. It really gets into the competition of what you're selling. If either your pricing is such that you're not worried about your competition, or your market is such that you don't have a lot of competition, then posting a price makes sense, because the consumer is gonna like better knowing before they make the phone call or click the email button to reach out to you, that they can afford what you're selling. However, in more competitive situations, a $10 difference can make the difference between winning the deal and losing the deal. So in a lot of cases, you don't want to just post that inventory. It's a tough call, and I think with the buying side, media buyers don't really need to hear this message, because they know this. They live this all day long. But for the advertiser buying on here, they have to go in confident in their negotiation skills. Media buyers do it every day. They're totally confident. they'll make you sell it for cheaper than you want to. But the advertiser needs to go in and sort of understand the leverage that they have, which is that inventory is worth nothing if the airing time passes and they haven't sold it. It's likened a lot to airline seating, where once the plane takes off, that seat's worth nothing. So it's the same type model, and so they have to understand that some money for a spot is better than no money for a spot, and negotiate it that way. Now, if there's competition, then that drives the number up, but it never hurts to ask, and it never hurts to say, I can only pay X, that work.
There's nothing wrong with negotiating. I mean, I've had people who've tried to negotiate for, nothing. And I'm like, well, that doesn't fly. Honestly, it's interesting in the realm, because what I sell on your site is podcasting and radio spots. And we've now built a platform of over 3.5 million listeners per show. Now, a lot of the people who have come to us in the past are coaches and small business owners. Business owners are one. They're getting their business started, and they want to get the word out there, get people to know who they are. And I said, well, listen, if you're just building your list and you don't really know anyone and you want to get people to know who you are, wouldn't going on a platform of 3.5 million be worth something to you? And then some people will tell me, well, sometimes I don't pay for that sort of thing. I don't pay for advertising. And I said, well, honestly, you do pay for it, either in your time or mine. So more money.
Yeah. I mean, it's marketing is definitely a necessary piece to business, especially for the smaller starting business, maybe even more so.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and it's a bit unfair because the starting business doesn't have deep budgets and things like that. But it's an important consideration in the budget.
Well, also, I think what it is, Robert, is really paying attention, like you said earlier, knowing who your target market is. Who are you trying to serve? Where is your service, product, or information going to best serve? Who is it going to best serve? And then once you know that, you know where to begin and what that client might be engaged with more. Would they listen to a podcast more, or would they kind of see ads on the side of a highway? People respond to different things depending on who your audience is. So really answering those questions ahead of time. I made the mistake, being a financial consultant is what my first business was. And my mistake was doing everything. I tried to do radio for $2,400 a spot. I did a whole bunch of newspaper ads. I got me not one call. So it's realizing, because really it was funny. When they got me on the radio, it was funny. They said, we have a spot at 3 a.m. that's for your budget. And I'm thinking, who's going to need a financial consultant at 3 a.m. in the morning? And who is awake to even hear the ad?
Well, if they need you bad enough, maybe they can't sleep. But
that's right. Oh my gosh, I need that.
That's, it's funny though, because it really is part of knowing the audience, because in cases where, having been at an advertising agency, I was at a major advertising agency, McCann Erickson, for almost 10 years. And I learned so much about marketing there. In a situation like that, you have nursing mothers and people who are up in the middle of the night who are awake and need something to focus on. And it's prime inventory to hit that demographic and that, that market for baby products and, things like that. So you just have to know who's watching at the time and work with it.
That's a really good way to look at it, because the person I spoke to at ABC Radio said, well, there's a bunch of bakers out there. I'm like, I don't think they need me.
Time to make the donuts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want anyone to leave here without finding out how they can find out more about AdFresco Media Group and find out more about you if they like to work with you.
Sure. Nance Livingston and I are both on LinkedIn. We have our site out there, which is www.adfresco.com, and it's ADFRESCO. No peculiar spelling, which is maybe to our detriment these days. I'm not sure, but info@adfresco.com. We'll get an email to Nance and I both. And we're happy to help. We're actually actively looking for enterprise type partnerships. So we're reaching out to a lot of interested parties in large television and large radio sales groups right now to see if we can do a bigger deal with them, get all their AEs on using the site and selling inventory out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting you said that, because sometimes just the reaching out, just coming on a podcast like this can connect you with someone who could be a partner going forward that you wouldn't even consider. So, yeah, anyone out there who feels that AdFresco, that you could be partners with them, give them a call today or email them, and go to adfresco.com. So if you need to advertise an upcoming campaign and see what they have out there. That's what I did. Before I put out my campaign, I looked at what other campaigns were doing in my industry, giving me an idea how to go forward.
Absolutely. Right. And right now, for another 12 months, it's free to even post an offering out there. So, take a look through the site, see the placements we have, post your own, just, try it before you buy it kind of thing, and see how it works for you.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again, Robert, for coming to share your great wisdom today, because not everyone who's out there in business land actually knows much about marketing, but hopefully you've whetted their appetite and got them going, and they're going to go to adfresco.com immediately. And I want to thank you again for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to talking to everybody who would like some help from us, and appreciate your time.
You betcha. Take care.
Take care.
After 5 years of creating exciting business content with amazing businesses from around the world, Savvy is now creating a new video series entitled Heartbeat of the World. This series will feature experts from around the globe. We will highlight and discuss some of the greatest challenges facing the U.S. and the world. Co-create with us and find out more at bit.ly/SavvyPatron.
Savvy Business Radio, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities, or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.